Welcome to another deep dive today. We're going to be tackling, I think, a question we all ponder at some point.
Yeah.
How do we find our purpose? That driving why that kind of gives our lives direction.
Yeah. It's a question that's fascinated thinkers for like centuries, but luckily for us, we've got some incredible insights from a modern expert, Simon Sinek.
Exactly, Sinek. And this deep dive is going to be based on his appearance on the High Performance YouTube channel, where he breaks down his start with why concept. And trust me, it's not just like fluffy motivational stuff. There's real substance to this.
Oh, yeah. Sinek goes way beyond the usual follow your passion advice. It gives us a framework for understanding the deeper motivations behind everything we do. It's not just about what we do or how we do it.
It's the why.
It's the why.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's like he's saying our why is the engine driving the car, not just like the paint job or the fancy wheel.
That's a great analogy. And what's really fascinating is that Sinek believes this why isn't something we choose or invent. Like it's ingrained in us, shaped by our upbringing and experiences from a young age.
It's almost like an origin story, like unique to each of us.
Precisely. And Sinek argues that the key to a fulfilling life is to live in alignment with this why. When our actions and words flow from that deep-seated purpose, we experience a sense of authenticity and deep satisfaction.
Which makes total sense. I
Yeah.
think we've all met people who just seem to radiate genuine passion, and you can just tell they're like living in their sweet spot.
Absolutely. And Sinek himself is a great example of someone who had to rediscover his why. He tells this compelling story about reaching a point in his career where he was outwardly successful, but completely burned out.
Yeah, I remember that from the video too. He was saying he was like going through the motions, making money, hitting milestones, but like feeling totally empty inside.
And that's where it gets really interesting. It was actually a friend who pointed out that something was off. And that kind of gentle nudge led Sinek on this journey of self-discovery. And eventually he realized his passion lay in helping others uncover their why.
So in a way, his own struggle became the catalyst for his life's work.
Exactly. And what I find so powerful about Sinek's story is that it emphasizes that high performance isn't just about achievement.
Right.
It's about feeling fulfilled, energized, in a state of what he calls flow.
Which is a concept that resonates with a lot of high performers,
Yeah.
right? Like it's not about grinding yourself down, but about tapping into a source of intrinsic motivation.
Right. Think about those times when you've been so engrossed in something that you lose track of time. You're
Yeah.
fully present, challenged, but not overwhelmed, and incredibly productive.
Yeah,
That's flow.
that's a great point. And it makes me wonder, how do we even begin to tap into that flow state more consistently? How do we actually uncover our why?
Well, Sinek has a surprisingly simple but effective exercise for that, and I think you're going to love this.
Okay, you got my attention. Let's hear it.
It's called the Friends exercise, and it involves reaching out to someone who knows you well. Close friend, family member, someone who's seen you at your best and worst.
So we're calling up our buddies for a deep philosophical chat. This should be interesting.
Well, it's not as heavy as it sounds. The key question you ask this friend is simply, why are we friends?
That's it.
Yeah.
Seems pretty straightforward, though I imagine some of my friends might struggle with that one more than others.
That's actually the point. Sinek emphasizes letting your friends struggle to articulate the answer. Don't jump in to help or offer suggestions. It's in those moments of searching for the right words that the magic happens.
Okay, so we're letting them sweat it out a bit. What exactly should we be listening for in their response?
As they grapple with the question, they'll eventually start describing you. They might say things like, "You're always so supportive," or "You have a way of making me feel seen," or "You're incredibly driven and always pushing yourself to be better."
Ah, I see. Those descriptions are essentially revealing the value I bring to the world, the qualities that make me unique.
Exactly. And Sinek says to pay close attention to your own emotional response during this process. You might feel a surge of warmth, a sudden sense of clarity, even goosebumps. Those are signs that you're hitting on something profound.
It's like your heart is compelled.
That's a great way to put it. And here's where it gets even more interesting. The qualities your friends describe are often the very same ones that draw you to certain activities and make you feel most fulfilled when you engage in them.
So if my friend tells me I'm great at explaining complex ideas in a simple way, that might be a clue that I'm naturally drawn to, like teaching or writing or something that involves communication and knowledge sharing.
Precisely. It's not necessarily about like finding a specific job title, but rather like identifying the core values and motivations that drive you.
Okay, that makes sense. It's about recognizing the underlying why that fuels my passions and like,
Mm.
gives me that sense of purpose.
Yeah.
So let's say I've done the friends exercise. I have a clear understanding of my why. How do I actually put it into action? How do I make sure it's not just like a nice idea, but something that shapes my choices and behaviors?
Well, Sinek offers some like brilliant insights on how to communicate and lead with purpose, and he uses like really clever dating analogy to illustrate his point.
Ooh, a dating analogy. I'm all ears.
Okay, imagine two scenarios. In the first, someone on a date spends the whole time boasting about their accomplishments, their fancy car, their impressive job title. In the second scenario, they share a story about how they helped a colleague through a tough time and felt deeply fulfilled by the experience.
Okay, I can already see the difference. The first approach feels like shallow and ego-driven, while the second feels genuine and like emotionally resonant.
Exactly. And Sinek argues that sharing your why, the values that drive your actions, acts as a like filter. It attracts people who resonate with those values and repels those who don't.
It's like sending out a signal that attracts like-minded individuals.
Precisely. And this principle applies not just to dating, but to like all areas of life, especially leadership. Sneck believes that truly effective leaders inspire action not by commanding or dictating, but by connecting with people on an emotional level by sharing their vision and the why behind it.
So instead of just like presenting ideas or issuing orders, leaders who start with why are more likely to motivate and inspire their teams to achieve great things.
Right. It's not about like grand speeches or sweeping pronouncements. It can be as simple as taking the time to understand another person's perspective before presenting your own ideas, or sharing personal stories about what you genuinely love about your work.
Authenticity seems to be a key theme here.
Absolutely. It's about being genuine, vulnerable, and connected to like the deeper meaning behind what you do.
Okay, so we've talked about the power of why in our personal lives and in leadership roles. But how does all this relate back to, like, high performance, which was the initial focus of this deep dive?
That's a great question, and it's something Sinek addresses directly. He argues that like true high performance isn't just about, external achievements, the awards, the promotions, the recognition. It's about tapping into a source of intrinsic motivation that allows you to operate from a place of passion and purpose.
It's about that feeling of flow we were talking about earlier, being fully engaged in what you're doing and deriving like a deep sense of satisfaction from the process itself, not just the outcome.
Exactly. And Sinek also makes a powerful point about the role of support in achieving high performance. He firmly believes that no one can truly be high performing in isolation.
He tells this like really poignant anecdote about Steven Spielberg receiving thanks from people he didn't even help, while those he actually supported hesitated to acknowledge his contribution.
Right. It's like they were afraid that admitting they needed help would somehow diminish their own achievements.
It speaks to a broader societal narrative that often glorifies the like self-made individual
Hmm.
and makes us reluctant to acknowledge the role of support in our success.
Sinek challenges that narrative directly. He argues that true high performance requires vulnerability, connection, and a willingness to ask for help when we need it.
And by building a strong support system, we can not only achieve greater results, but also like enjoy the journey along the way.
Exactly. It's not just about reaching the destination. It's about having a fulfilling and sustainable journey. And that brings us to another important aspect of high performance, understanding our unique characteristics and attributes.
Right. Sinek goes beyond the like simplistic strengths and weaknesses framework and encourages us to recognize that we all have qualities that can be both, like assets and liabilities, depending on the context.
For example, some people thrive in individual work settings while others excel in team environments. Some thrive under pressure while others need time and space to do their best work. There's no right or wrong. It's just about understanding what works best for you.
So it's about being honest with ourselves about our attributes so we can find environments where we can truly thrive and avoid situations that like drain our energy and diminish our effectiveness.
Exactly. It's about playing to our strengths, recognizing our limitations, and seeking out environments that support our unique ways of being.
So we've covered a lot of ground, from understanding our why to communicating it effectively, from the role of support to the importance of like self-awareness.
Mm-hmm.
But there's one more piece of the puzzle I want to unpack. Sinek talks about 3 non-negotiable behaviors that he believes are essential for like living a high-performance life.
I'm intrigued. What are they?
He calls them integrity, honor, and a willingness to challenge yourself and grow.
Those are powerful principles indeed, and I think they tie in beautifully with everything we've discussed today.
Absolutely. But we'll have to save that exploration for part 3 of our deep dive. Welcome back to the deep dive
Yeah.
into Simon Sinek's world.
Where we're going to unpack those 3 non-negotiable behaviors for high performance.
Integrity. And a willingness to challenge yourself and grow.
Yeah.
You know, when I first heard Sinek talk about these, I was like, okay, sure, those are like good qualities, but like, how do they actually play out in the real world?
Yeah. That's a question a lot of people have. It's like easy to talk about these like lofty ideals, but what do they look like in action?
Exactly. So let's start with integrity. It's a word we hear all the time, but like, what does it really mean in the context of like high performance?
For Sinek, it's not just about being honest, though that's certainly part of it. It's about like doing the right thing, even when it's hard, even when no one's watching. It's about aligning your actions with your values consistently.
It's about walking the talk, not just talking the talk.
Precisely. And that's where the challenge comes in, because sometimes doing the right thing means making, tough choices.
Yeah.
Maybe even sacrificing short-term gains for long-term benefits.
Like that example Sinek gave about the employee demanding a raise from a company that's like struggling.
Yeah.
From a purely strategic standpoint, it might make sense to, push for more money, but it lacks.
Honor.
Right. That's the second behavior.
Yeah.
And it's a bit more nuanced than integrity, I think.
Absolutely. It's not just about being polite or following rules. Sinek describes it as a deep respect for others, especially when they're vulnerable.
Yeah. You talked about not taking advantage of situations, even if you have the upper hand.
Exactly. It's about putting the needs of others ahead of your own, especially when they're in a difficult spot. It's about acting with empathy and compassion, even in a competitive world.
Which, let's be honest, can be really tough sometimes.
Yeah.
It's easy to get caught up in the rat race and lose sight of those values.
That's why Sinek emphasizes these behaviors as non-negotiable, the foundation upon which true high performance is built.
Okay, so we've got integrity, we've got honor. What's the third piece of the puzzle?
A willingness to challenge yourself and grow. Sinek believes that complacency is the enemy of high performance. We need to constantly push ourselves beyond our comfort zones, learn new things, embrace new experiences.
It's about having a growth mindset, a belief that we can always improve and evolve.
And that ties back to Sinek's point about overcoming adversity. He sees challenges and setbacks not as obstacles to be avoided, but as opportunities for growth and learning.
It's like that saying, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
Exactly. By embracing challenges, by pushing ourselves beyond our perceived limits, we discover hidden strengths and develop resilience that serves us well in, all areas of life.
So we've explored these 3 non-negotiable behaviors, and I think they really round out Sinek's vision for high performance. It's not just about achieving external success. It's about living with purpose, acting with integrity, and constantly striving to grow.
And ultimately, as Sinek emphasizes, it's about using our why to make a positive impact on the world around us.
He leaves us with that powerful question. If high performance is about benefiting others, what are you passionate about contributing to the world?
It's a question worth pondering, isn't it?
Yeah.
What unique gifts and talents do you have that you can use to, make a difference? What legacy do you want to leave behind?
This deep dive has given us a lot to think about. From uncovering our why to living in alignment with it, it's been a real exploration of what it means to not just succeed, but to truly thrive.
And if you're ready to take the next step, I highly recommend checking out Simon Sinek's work, starting with his book, Find Your Why.
Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep diving deep.